Hi, everybody. My name is Sarah, Pearls of Wisdom in Food. And if it's Tuesday, it must be with a turtle. And we have Leslie with us today. And Leslie's going to talk about the last 5 or 6 months of her life where she came out of something, went into something, and now is getting stable and consistent again, which is like the perfect place to be for this sort of interview because you've got a little hindsight, what I do next or something like that. So welcome, Leslie.
Thank you, Sarah. Good to be here.
Yeah, it's really nice to have you too. In your sunshine yellow. We like that.
Well, we're going to have 70 degrees here today, so I know that's not where you're at.
No, it's not even close.
No, no.
Anyway, so Leslie is right now in a good place and she's getting back on track. Why don't you go back over the last few months of where this turtle pace brought you and why and how you dug yourself out?
Okay, that sounds good. Well, and maybe even starting a little further back, I'm not one of those people that had a weight problem my whole life. I'm probably more typical. That started happening in my 40s, perimenopause, and it was just a trajectory after menopause. So probably, and that was around, I would say, 2012. I'm also a family nurse practitioner, so a lot of my journey parallels some of my treatment with my patients. So I've had a lot of success using a low carb diet, not necessarily a keto diet, but more low carb, basic kind of a plan for several years. Really good patient experience. My journey went right along with that. And then I had some things happen in about 2013. My practice closed without my desire, put it that way, just some circumstances beyond my control. And so for the next, probably 6 years, that's where we are now, lots of stress, menopause hits at the same time, and a lovely 30, 40 pounds appears just with no matter what I did. So, and kind of, again, putting my focus on patients and work and trying to deal with stressors, my self-care was to the wayside. So in 2000, let me think, it was the summer, I wrote myself some notes here. And I finally sort of hit this place of, okay, this is ridiculous. I don't even know what happened to me, but I decided to try a vegan diet, and it was July-ish of 2016. And I don't do things halfway. So I'm all in, read everybody, listened to everybody, bought every book, every gadget, salad spinners, blenders, you name it, I've got it. And I do it perfectly. There's just no, big, huge salads. And we were going along fine. Only problem is I didn't lose an ounce, not 1 ounce. But of course I'm saying, well, I'm doing it right. This is the good thing. This is what's supposed to happen. And probably, I don't know, several months in, and I have a husband who's a dream, who will do anything I tell the poor man to do. So against his wishes, he was eating a vegan diet as well. So sometime last summer, let me think, it was the summer of, 2018, he starts to say things like, my teeth don't feel good. Something's wrong with my teeth. And I'm, of course, thinking this is funny, and it's not really funny until I start hearing vegan stories about people's teeth falling out. And I thought, well, this isn't so good. And I'm assessing myself, and I thought, well, I'm not feeling that great either. Every time I eat a meal, I feel like I say 6 inches pregnant, like this bloating, but I would just tolerate it and think, well, this is healthy. So here we go. So I finally said, all right, enough is enough. And so November of 2018, I sort of did the 180 and said to my kids luckily have a good sense of humor too. And they're, Mom, from no meat to all meat. I'm like, yeah, that's what we're doing. So, so they all think I'm nuts, I'm sure. So November, I decided to go back to what I know will help. And that was pretty strictly a ketogenic diet. And I was eating 3 meals a day, and I'm very good at repeating, and I don't need a lot of variety and all that. So from November to probably the end of December, maybe I lost 8 or 9 pounds, something like that. And I was, giving up all those things. The one thing I didn't give up, however, is I liked my glass of wine in the evening. So that was sort of the last holdout. So December 29th, we get through Christmas and all that, and I had just found Sean Baker and listening to some of his things, and I may have found Mike at OMAD or Keto Mad at the time, at that point, and I thought, oh, these people are crazy. Who could do this? But you know what? Maybe I'm ready to dive in. So let's see, December 29th, I decided no more wine. We'll let that go, and I'm going to go and so let's just start with all meat. So January, pretty much all meat, all carnivore, no wine. And then I found that I was still eating 3 meals a day. I just wasn't hungry in the morning. And I thought I could probably let this go. Gives me more time in the morning, get to work, whatever. And then in February, I found you and I was thinking, gosh, 1 meal a day. And a couple of years ago, I encountered Jason Fung with intermittent fasting. And I just could not get my head around that. I thought, no, that's too hard. It's going to be too hard for my patients. I know I can't do that. Never going to happen. So I never experimented with it myself. And then in February, the end of February, middle of February, I decided, well, that's it. Let's just jump in. And so I went from 2 meals to 1 meal, and absolutely, surprisingly, maybe not a problem. A little bit of an adjustment as far as how I was eating my meal. What did I, was I eating enough at that meal? Some of that kind of thing that happened. And so since February, I think 24th now, I've been strictly 1 meal a day. And from November till now, and I mentioned this earlier, I'm down like 21, almost 22 pounds. And to me, of course, that's slow when I do what you shouldn't do, and that's get on the scale every day. And you see a little down and a little up and a little down. And I just had to say, that's it. That's the way it is. And certainly, my appreciation when I was in my 30s to say, what's 10 pounds? That's nothing. Suddenly when you look back at the age of 56 and you say, that was nothing. What was wrong with you? But now I get it. And I think I just appreciate where women are at this place. Because it's not the same, and every bite matters, and everything you do matters, and how you handle stress. It's all that. So that's sort of maybe the nutshell. There you have it.
So when you told me right before we went live, you said you're kind of carnivore-ish. What does that mean? Like, give us what your OMAD is, Leslie.
So mostly it's carnivore. So I'll mostly eat meat. Pork, tenderloin, certainly steak. I like eggs, include eggs quite a bit. My husband doesn't do eggs very well. A little bit of cheese. I'm not a big cheese person, but I can tend to overeat cheese, so I kind of leave that to the wayside. I have cream in my coffee. That's a must. And occasionally I will have a little bit of vegetable, but I don't buy them. And I may have them if we do eat out. That's changed a lot. We don't do that much. If we're at a friend's house, there may be, I don't know, celery or carrots or something, that kind of thing. So for the most part, it's carnivore, I'll say. But a little bit of dabbling. I'm intrigued with your salad, so I may play around with that too. Just including a little bit of the leafy greens. What I found in my vegan year, I'll say, was just lettuce was really hard for me. The romaine lettuce and raw vegetables didn't sit well at all. As much as I gave it a good go, that was not going to work well. So the different types of lettuces and leafy things, I seem to tolerate that much better. So maybe including a little bit of that, but by no means. I mean, I think when I've tracked what I'm taking, I might be getting 3 or 4 carbs in a day, just with eggs or cream or whatever. So for the most part, it's mostly meat.
So one thing that I found is that romaine is very, very harsh on the stomach, and that the baby butter lettuce from Olivia's and the butter lettuce from Trader Joe's are much softer, and they, and I used to like poo-poo softer lettuces because it's like, don't you want that roughage? And and now it's just enough. They're both gentle lettuces in my constitution, and that's why I have them. But I was very surprised. I realized that romaine is, it's got little ears in it and everything. And I suppose caring about veg, I would have thought, well, that's good. That's what you want, right?
Right. Yeah. Right.
So
Not
how
necessarily.
big is your portion of protein when you do have your OMAD?
Usually, I don't always weigh and measure it, but roughly, it's if I eat a ribeye, it's going to be a 7 or 8 ounce ribeye. I'll eat the whole thing. Usually, I'll try to get 6 to 8 ounces of, like if I'm doing a pork tenderloin or pork chop, something like that. It's about that, and that really, I was more worried about not eating enough initially because I just felt full, and so I really had to be mindful that I wasn't not getting enough. That's certainly one of the things I found on my plant-based diet was not enough. I mean, I really feel like I lost a ton of muscle and I just became more fat, more jiggly and fat. And so that concerned me when I started this, and I want to make sure I was doing enough. So roughly, I don't know, 6, 7, 8 ounces, something like that, mostly.
And so you just have the piece of meat. You're not having eggs on the side or anything like that.
Occasionally, I'll add some eggs because I like them a lot. So I'll do a couple of like medallions of a tenderloin and add a couple eggs. And that's usually it. I don't usually do more than one variety of meat typically. Only if there's leftovers, and that's I'm still kind of getting in my groove of what to purchase, when to cook it, that kind of thing. So we'll do a little bit of leftover stuff now and then. And that's kind of how we're figuring it out so far.
I like that. And how are your husband's teeth?
Much better.
But it's true. You start thinking about it, and it's like I've been diagnosed with osteoporosis, and like
Yeah,
I'm having 35 grams of protein, and it's like
yeah,
I doubled it, um,
yeah,
almost tripled it, and it's like there's been no effect on the scale. My energy level is like way up, and
yeah.
so I kind of match my fat with my protein every day. It's not consciously like I'm not sitting there with a chronometer saying I need more 5 more grams. I'm not
Right.
ends up that way with the very low carb.
Hmm. Yeah, and
Now,
that's
oh, go
I'm
ahead.
I'm at right now. Yeah, but his teeth are much better. He's much
Good.
happier eating meat, and instantly, says, "Oh, my gums are so much better," and he's no complaints. So he's very happy with this change. So I think we'll stay here.
I've heard vegan YouTube channels, and they talk about their or no longer vegan, and their teeth start getting loose or falling out, and it's like,
Yes. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. A little scary. Yeah. And especially being older, I don't want to lose my teeth, enough of that.
I
Yeah.
know. When you switched to the vegan, were you still promoting keto to your patients?
I was sort of I guess I refer to this as my period of confusion because and what prompted this is I was having I had changed some practice location, and so things were sort of in an adjustment, and I was seeing similar. Their lab values were getting worse. They were gaining weight, and I couldn't figure it out. Had I, in retrospect, said, let's drop a meal, let's do some intermittent fasting, I think that would have solved the problem. And of course, they're getting older, like I'm getting older. So everyone's entering another phase of life. And I just felt kind of lost clinically with not a lot. A lot of my continuing education is in bariatrics and metabolic medicine, and it's, of course, heavy in low carb. But I had been a little bit removed from that for a couple of years, and just was sort of at a loss. So unfortunately, I unfortunately suggested, let's go a little more plant-based. And that didn't really work. I mean, a couple of people said, well, I do feel better. I think there's that 10% that might do fine on a vegan diet. That's not the majority of people. Some people had, dramatic reductions in their lipid panels, and they were very happy about that. But for the most part, it wasn't beneficial with blood sugar management, certainly not very helpful with weight. They were much increased hunger. There was a lot of things that were not so great. And then, I had about a year of that period before I ended up again changing my working situation. So I still am in contact with some of those patients, trying to, I'm going to say, recover them and bring them back into another direction here. But so it was kind of a period of confusion, and really what we're doing isn't working. I just didn't have the best answer at the time. But I think
changing clinics, I mean, all that stress in your life as well.
Yeah, it was not simple, not easy, and I'm one of those people that it's working in my mind all the time, all night long. What do I do for this person and that person, and how can I put this together? And so we're on the recovery end of that. So.
Oh, I'm happy to hear that. And so I think it's so funny when I love Sean Baker's Human Performance Outliers YouTube videos, and Jason Fung. Really, he came after, for me, Dr. Davis, William Davis, with the wheat belly. Then came Jason Fung with the intermittent fasting. I never thought I'd do OMAD, and it sounds like you never did either.
No, never. I just didn't think I could. I could certainly, from a distance, say, "Oh, great, that makes sense. At some clinic in Canada, fine." Not for me, and it I maybe just felt daunting. I'm not sure what was my hesitation. Now it's incredibly easy and simple. My life is so simple in that regard. It's so I'm surprised, and maybe there's a time when people are ready for that kind of thing, but I certainly wasn't ready then. Yeah. Mm-mm.
So you wake up in the morning. Now, do you have any rituals or routines with like supplements or water or lemon or coffee, or what do you do?
So the morning is I do a little concoction, maybe similar to what you're doing, with some powdered potassium, powdered magnesium, and some salt. I do a little bit of salt water and a little bit of lemon in that. I do that in the morning. I do that in the evening. Occasionally I'll do some fish oil capsules, but I don't do that religiously. And then after that, I have my coffee, and I do heavy whipping cream. And periodically I'll do a little butter and blend it and do that sort of thing, but not regularly. But I like that. So that's pretty much my morning. And then at work, I work 4 days a week. And so my lunch hour used to be the routine of, heating up my meal and eat my lunch and that sort of thing. And then at first I thought, oh, what am I going to do? This is terrible, So I heat up my coffee and I enjoy my coffee and I read and catch up on emails and that kind of thing. And I go back to my afternoon. I don't miss the meal at all. So I have my coffee in the afternoon, or lunchtime, I should say. And then when I get home in the evening, I usually will have actually one more coffee and then have dinner. And that's sort of and then before bed, I'll do my little salty mineral solution again. So that's kind of that's the routine.
Very similar to mine. So when you were having your great big salad, I was having great big salads on keto. I was having between 150 to 200 grams of salad and bloat. I know. As a vegan, I can't imagine how you felt with bloat.
It was terrible. And again, it was one of those things I thought, well, this is healthy, so I better just tolerate it and not pay attention to the symptom, But literally, Sarah, I felt like 6 inches of my belly for the next 2 hours. And I never really measured my salad. I just got the biggest bowl I could find with the lid so I could shake it all up and have all my good stuff. And I could make some just beautiful looking salads and take this big mass to work, and takes a good 30 minutes to munch through all that. And then the next 2 hours, you feel awful, and just full and uncomfortable. And then after, by the 3rd hour, I'm starving again. I'm like, oh my God, I can't wait to get home and eat dinner. So, and that was something I noticed. I wouldn't say I'm generally a hungry person. I was really hungry eating a vegan diet. And it didn't matter if it was whole wheat pasta or it was rice and vegetables or the big salad. I just didn't feel satisfied. I was just really hungry.
Always hungry, always hungry.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
I love mostly meat and eggs, it just really suits me. So let me ask you, who do you like to listen to? Who are your favorite YouTubers?
Well, you have to be now, so that's my daily morning thing. So it's Sarah. Mike, he's got such a great sense of humor. So I listen to Mike. I check in with Dr. Ken Berry, and I like Sean Baker and their podcast. I've listened to some of the Carnivore Cast episodes. I like that. Yeah, let me think. I like to listen to some medical stuff. So I'll listen to the conference, the low carb conference lectures and things like that. I can't get enough of those types of things. So I'll listen to those sorts of Low Carb USA has some good videos. I'll try to keep on top of that, those kind of presentations, I guess. I like that. And funny, maybe it's been 6, 7, 8 years ago, I first came across, it was looking up something on the internet about vitamin D, and it was Ken Berry. And I confirmed this because I kept an article that he wrote, but he didn't have a YouTube channel. I didn't know anything. He didn't really have a presence. And when I then rediscovered him, and now with a YouTube channel, there he is. That's the same Ken Berry that I took some information on. It was kidney stones or vitamin D or something like that. Really interesting, but it was kind of neat to reconnect. And I'll listen to Jason Fung and read different blogs and articles, that kind of thing. And I've recently, and probably since you and Mike are doing so many interviews, Jim Caldwell, and then I think there's another fella, OMAD Dad. I like his story. And then Kayla from 6 Miles to Supper. Her interviews are really good. And although they're not all carnivore or keto, they're just the human journey, I think, is interesting to me, where people have been and where they're coming and watching their success. That's the best part.
It's funny because when people come forward on my email account, they'll say, well, I'm not sure if I qualify because I'm not really, at my goal or maintenance yet. It's like, no, that's right when we want you. We want you in the middle of the journey because it teaches us so much about, got a fruit fly here.
Fruit fly.
Teaches us so much about, the journey and the frustration.
Yeah.
Did you see, I think it was him on HBO, Human Performance Outliers, when they had Dr. Darren Schmidt on, and he's talking about black mold and parasites.
Oh, I did not. I missed that one.
And it was about, are you stalling or having trouble with your weight loss? And because this happened to him, and he's a doctor, his whole office was infested with black mold to the point he had to move out and move everything. And of course, everything has the black mold in it.
Right.
Years. But he does consultations like Dr. Berry does and Dr. Jason Fung does, phone consultations. And I have a client that she is just as stuck as be. And I just wonder because we all, I know that she and her husband have rental properties, and I'm just sitting there thinking empty properties gathering mold because you don't have any air conditioning or heating going on.
Right.
And that would play a role. And then I thought of Suzanne Summers. I don't know if you've read her book.
Yeah.
Where the house was filled with the black mold and how they just kept getting sicker and sicker and sicker, and nobody's putting their finger on it. Right. And so I thought it was fascinating. And because you're in the profession, I just wondered if you ever came across parasites or black mold as like, this could be the culprit.
Right. I have. Yes, I've had several patients that have been exposed and have had mold toxicity. I've done some testing for not just mold allergies or mold sensitivities, but actual mold in their body. And so yes, I'm not an expert at treating that at all, but I some basic protocols I've started patients on and then referred them to the experts. But that is a factor simply from the amount of inflammation. Their bodies are massively inflamed. And so and diet can't be ignored in that, but they tend to be craving sugar. I mean, they just feed the mold. I mean, a lot of their lifestyle ends up making the whole situation worse, until they finally can get rid of that and get the proper treatment. But it is a factor, and parasites are an issue. Sometimes that opens a can of worms, is a bad way to say that, but for some people that are desperately seeking an answer, and they kind of get fixated on the idea that it's parasites, but parasites certainly can be a real concern in some patients. Probably not as widespread, but it's certainly a factor. Yeah, and it tends to cause symptoms where, like I said, they feed it. They feed it with their diet and their habits and behavior. So it has to be the whole package to treat it and get them past that. But that, yeah, definitely you have seen that in clinical practice.
And when you get, it's kind of like you're treating them and nothing's changing, nothing's changing. Do you ask what people eat when they come to you?
Always, yeah, always. And because I've only worked for a very short time in standard family medicine, where that's not even a question, and mostly I've been in complementary medicine or in my own practice, where that's the first thing I want to know. So that's always the question, always. And you tease out where they're living, what they're exposed to environmentally, what kind of work situation. All of those things are hugely important.
There's another man, he's not a doctor, but his name is Phil Escott, and I think he was on Human Performance as well.
Yeah.
And he always talks about woo-woo stuff. He's very funny. He's from England, and he's very funny, but he's got, when he interviews, he's got like a red light behind him. He wears like
the glasses. Is he the glasses?
Those yellow all that stuff. And I think that I've always felt that, like, the fluorescent light of an office could make somebody sick too.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
And I see you've got nice skylights, so at least you have some.
Well, it's actually just the good old fluorescent lights here.
Oh, and here I think that there's, like, on the other side of that is Mr. Sun.
No, I got to go outside and get that. So
you would want to say about your food plan? Here's my question. What would you say to somebody that was you a couple of months ago? If they came to you and they said, Dr. Leslie, I don't know. I think I'm doing things right. I can't lose weight. I probably, I don't know. How would you treat yourself?
Probably the same way I treated myself. So, it's getting real and figuring out where those things are that are sabotaging. And it's the little bite here, it's the little bite there. It's, your glass of wine in the evening is going to be a problem. And just really evaluating everything and clarify where you want to go. And I think for women that are either just entering menopause or in those couple of years post-menopausal, it's really, they really literally, and I get it now, they've said to me, this is not my body. I woke up in this, and who is this person? And I get that. I mean, more than I did at the age of 45. I didn't get it then. Now I get it completely. And I'm like, I am with you. I don't know who my body is either. And so I think it's embracing, this is you now. And what do you need? Not what your neighbor, your coworker, your whatever. It's, what do you need now? And let's do that. I've listened to several people where you talk about food addiction, and it's real. There's no doubt about it. And that's very, well, I do everything right, but I have to have my one Dr. Pepper, or I do everything right, but my artificial sweeteners, and I just had 2 French fries when we went out. There's always those types of things. I had a cheat day. Nobody deserves to be cheated on. And I just feel like, no, stop cheating yourself, So I think it's kind of a come to Jesus moment of being able to say, let's start over. Let's put this in place. Let's do what you can do and track it. I think for me, tracking, I use a bullet journal. That's my latest fad thing I was doing. And I love it because and I do use a chronometer too, but more so I write things down and I'm visual, I see it on paper. So watching my own weight or symptoms or whatever day to day is helps me to say, well, it's just about today. It's not 2 months from now or 6 months ago or whatever. And I think that helps people because we have these unrealistic expectations of losing 10 pounds in 24 hours just because I made one change. And I say to my patients, your body doesn't care if you ate a Snickers bar or you ate a Greek yogurt. It's all the same when it comes down to sugar. And so I think it's gradually making changes and not fixating on the scale. And you've said that repeatedly, of course. That's huge. But and honoring where you are, and not being upset or frustrated or whatever. Just it is what it is. So if that helps, and then you tailor things to what people like and what their lifestyles are, and what other family demands and those kind of stressors too. And I've had patients say, I eat out 7 days a week. What am I going to do? Okay, well, here at the drive-through, get the burger without the bun, and get the tea without the sugar. And you start where people are to let them begin to make those changes. But if I win the lottery, it'll be an inpatient unit to help everyone go through detox. But we'll see.
Exactly. And I think that the characteristics of what I call a turtle, it's getting to that acceptance, and it's the baby steps. It's the
Yeah.
getting up and the introducing going on at the same time. And it's like so many women don't have power within their own household of or the energy to cook 2 different meals. But
Right.
sometimes
Yeah.
that's what it takes.
Right.
you know.
Yeah, it does. Yeah. And if I have one patient particular here that is where I'm working, and her family just demands, eating a particular way. And so I suggested, I said, she said, I do great at work. I'm great at breakfast, great at lunch. I get home and it's a disaster. I said, well, what if you considered intermittent fasting and that's the meal you did, and during the day, and she said, wow, I never thought about that. But she has some, significant metabolic problems and risk factors and things that are not good, and she needs to make changes. So that may be sort of her Kayla version of doing it, and helpful for her. But yeah, it's true. There's people feel out of control. And I think if we focus on our behaviors and what we can control and maximize that versus lamenting what we, can't do anything about, we'll see success. We'll see some success.
I love how you said about yourself that at 45 wouldn't have gotten the you that's presenting today,
Mhm.
in menopause or on the way out of menopause. And it's like, how could you be that much different? And it's like, oh yeah,
Way, way different.
you cross that line, and it's like, so
Yeah.
that's why I'm so glad a lot of older metabolisms like their things, right? Listen,
Right.
because it's like, I'm getting more and more women in their 70s, and it's like, I'm so glad I found you. I can't identify with the 25-year-olds that lost 10 pounds in their sleep the first,
Right.
and it's like, I know,
Right.
but then
Yeah.
they have fat. And if you're our age and you came from that low fat, no fat place,
Right.
didn't we all think carrot sticks and a fat-free yogurt and a diet soda was lunch?
Yeah.
Didn't we?
Awful.
Fat-free American cheese. Woo! Well, this has been a
Awful.
delight, and I'm so glad you are who you are, and you're in this journey, and people here got to meet you, and we.
Well, I appreciate it. Yeah, hopefully it'll help somebody, some women. And one you brought up with another somebody you interviewed about hormones, and I've done hormone therapy. I'm very familiar with it. I've done it myself, and it's helpful for menopausal symptoms. It is not helpful for weight loss, no matter what. And a lot of women will say, "Oh, I'm going to get on hormones," and they'll advertise it that it's very helpful for weight loss. And it just is not. That's not my clinical experience. That's certainly not my personal experience. It will make you stop sweating and sleep better. And that's perfect. After that, it's your diet, and really, really, so hormones may have a place in menopause as you're transitioning, but they're not magic for the weight loss. So that's really where the diet is crucial. So that you got it. That's for sure.
It's your diet, it's your diet, it's your diet, right?
Yep. That's it.
Well, thank you so much for this 35 minutes, almost 40 minutes. You got to get to work. Uh,
Yes, that's yeah, good. I'm good timing.
thank you for doing this, and I'm going to say goodbye to our viewers, and
Okay.
I'll see you on the other side.
Okay.